talking about my father, Mr. Agapito Tarango. He was the head custodian at Bowie High School. We were here for 32 years, serving El Paso Independent School District. We all attended Bowie High School. We graduated from Bowie, and I, till this day, am an EPISD employee. Back in the day, we lived on school grounds, and when we were there, we were just a regular family. The only difference was that we had our father working 24/7. Anything that would happen while the school was closed, students were on school ground, my father was responsible for. He would have his all-day routine, and we knew that when we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we had to be precise at what time we had to eat, because my father had a schedule to follow. We moved to Bowie High School, and the same routine followed. My father started teaching us how to come on school grounds, and he would ask us to assist. So while he was locking doors and making sure alarms were on, my father would send us off to lock gates, and we would come back and report to him. We were like his workers, but it was fun. He would make it fun. He started at Crosby, and then from Crosby we ended up moving over to Guillen. At the school where now it used to be Bowie High School. My father ended up having his office, and we're two boys and two girls, which is Avelina Alvarado, used to be Avelina Tarango, Margarita Tarango, then my brother Julian Tarango and Arturo Tarango, married to Ramona Tarango. So we all lived actually at Guillen. They ended up making the new administration building, and it wasn't finished yet, but we ended up moving here on school grounds at Bowie High School, which they call the new Bowie High School. When we lived here, my father worked 24/7. He was always working around the clock, whether it was doing functions, school activities, sports, any kind of sports activity, we were always involved one way or another. We celebrated a lot of the Bowie Fiesta. We ended up celebrating a lot of the parades with the coaches from the era in the 70s. Nolan Richardson was one of them, Coach Hurd. My father was very attentive to the school. He cared a lot about his staff. Actually, they had a meeting, and my father brought up the point of wanting to have uniforms for their custodians. So Bowie High School ended up being the ones that started it off when they had the uniforms for the custodians, and now in this era, everybody has a uniform with EPISD. I would see him waking up in the morning. My siblings would actually get ready for school. My father, by the time we were already waking up to get into school, my father had already turned on all the lights, unlocked all the gates. He would go on the golf cart and drive around, making sure that the school was ready for all students to come in, and for teachers, prepping for all the teachers. Any type of assistance, he was always willing and able to assist. They offered the school, Bowie High School, to many head custodians, but my father was only the first one who stepped up to the plate and said that he would take the school. And that's when we all had been informed that my father was going to be the first head custodian here at Bowie High School. At the old Bowie, he worked at the old Bowie, but he wasn't the first custodian there. We ended up moving over here. It was a quick move because the administration building wasn't finished yet. So yes, in the attendance office, it wasn't finished yet when they moved us here. My father needed to be on school grounds to be aware of what was going to be built and where it was going to be built, because he needed to be familiarized with the school district, with the school itself. So if anything needed to be done or reported, my father was the first one to be attending to it. And I remember he would always be carrying his radio. You could always hear him in the halls or anywhere in the school district, because the keys would cling, they would be clinging. And that's how my father, people would recognize my father down the hall. Oh, my stay here at Bowie was so much fun. It was exciting to know that I was in a safe place. I was at home on school grounds, so my father wouldn't question where I was. And the counselors, administration, teachers, they knew who we were. We were always sometimes with the coaches. If we weren't assisting with the coaches, we would be with the band. And I was in band. I was in Amistad with Mr. Richard Barragan. I was with Joe Olivas. He was the one that would come up with the summer programs. He was an art teacher here at Bowie High School. And we would have activities on school grounds. So my father would take us to actually go and work on activities. And it was just not myself, but it was my sister, my little brothers, some of the people that would come out from the residential area just to learn how to do art. My father was waiting for the youngest one to graduate, and after that, it was 32 years later, and my father had announced that he was going to retire. He did so much. He worked so many games, football games, basketball games, wrestling. My brothers were very involved in wrestling. We were involved in band. Was involved with the folklorico, FHA, Amistad. And we would have family events. And we were so lucky because we didn't have to go anywhere. We had the whole parking lot to park the family's vehicles, and we just had an area for us to have our festivities. We had birthdays here, quinceañeras, weddings, and it was very nice.
On campus?
Well, remember, it's our school, the school grounds, but we lived on school grounds, and it was our home. We had that privacy. Those trees that are there right now, where it was, my father ended up planting some of those trees. And that was one thing he loved doing. He loved gardening, and he kept up the Bowie High School very, very well. It was always beautiful and green. So we would actually bring in our vehicles when it would be snowing, raining, or we wouldn't have good weather, or we would have, I had my quinceañera here. After the quinceañera finished in the hall, all the family members ended up showing up here at home, and we would all be under a roof. My mother had a lot to do with it also at Bowie High School. We ended up actually washing a lot of the uniforms, and we were taught how to fold them by my mom. They would give her that responsibility while my father would be going around Bowie High School and checking up all the doors and locking all the gates. The washers would be running, and they would call us in to help out. So we got to wash a lot of the basketball uniforms, football. Whenever an administrator actually needed something, he would pull through 100%. He loved what he did. He enjoyed being a boy bear. And we were little cubs at first, but became boy bears. Our family runs as far back as my uncles being graduates of Bowie High School. They all were so proud to say that their brother-in-law worked here. And for my father, he received a lot of awards. He worked with the special ed department. He would always be willing to assist any which way he could. And I remember when he was at the cafeterias, I would see a lot of the special ed students being taught by him how to organize themselves. And he would give them advice. And he would be teaching them how to sweep, how to clean tables, and to take pride in what they do. And he would tell them, no matter what you do, the smallest thing that you're responsible for, always do your best, because that reflects on you. I still hear his name in the halls at EPISD. Custodians still talk about how outstanding this school was when my father was here till this day. And what we're 2018, they still recognize him and they still know him. And I take a lot of pride when they ask me, "Are you Tarango's daughter?" And I go, "Yes, sir. Yes, I am." I go, "I remember you when you were this high." And that's how I connect with EPISD also. Well, my father didn't completely retire. He kept on working. He would work anywhere and everywhere he wanted. He even made his own little shop there at our home. He was in a garage, and he set up his garage exactly like he had his office, and everything was well organized. He would dismantle things and then put them together the correct way. He would sand things down, and he would refinish them, and they would end up so beautiful, so beautiful. A handyman he always was, always. So he was home for a while, and he just couldn't sit still. So he went out and started applying for a job, and he just wanted to do maintenance. That's it. But as soon as they knew what background experience, what skill he has, they wanted to make him a supervisor. He didn't want that. He just wanted to go to work, clock in and clock out, not take on the responsibility of everybody else. But my father was a type that if he would see something, whether it was his responsibility or not, it had to get fixed, he would fix it. So as his daughter, as my sister, he did a lot for us, a lot, but we learned a lot, from woodwork to electrical, to being organized, taking on a challenge, and always giving 100% to whatever we do, and always having passion for what we do. A lot. I grew up here at Bowie High School, and we had wonderful memories, great memories. It was so much fun, especially when the inclement weather, when we used to have snowstorms here. We had the best snowmen ever because we were the only ones here to collect snow and build snowmen. And we would have snowball fights, and my father would let us draw on the snow. When we couldn't go out anymore because it was so thick, we would end up going into the gym, to his office, and he would let us run around for a little bit. It was the greatest thing ever, because what kid has a full gym, tennis courts, racket courts, football stadium, basketball stadium, a full cafeteria, and everything was gated up. There was no harm done to us because we were protected within the school itself. It was fun. It was great. And he would show us secret places, which we thought was a secret, but it was areas where he could go up on the roof, and he would tell us stories about being up on the roof, and he could touch up to heaven. And then we would go and look at all the stars, and then we would come down again, and then we'd go into the gym, and they said that the gymnasium, it was for, what do you call it, like a bomb shelter, or for hurricanes. And I used to imagine this, if anything would ever happen, that there was a hurricane or any kind of harm, that was the first thing I would go into the gymnasium, and my father would drill us. And he would time us and say, okay, where are you going? And where's the first place you're going to go? And we go straight down the stairs to where the stage is. You go down the stairs, and there's the locker rooms in there. And that would be the safest place at Bowie High School for any student, would be the main gym, because it's sturdy. And I still take pride to this day. Anybody that has a story to share with me, that if I didn't get to meet them, they will come up to me and they will tell, well, I remember your father. We used to be out, and then they used to tell me their stories.